Hello, and thanks for joining me here for another episode of Storytime. Today's story comes from my latest collection, Mistletoe Magic and Other Holiday Tales. And the excerpt I'm going to read to you is from the short story called Christmas Present. And so, Carol, we thought it would be a nice touch if you could put together a little concert for our guests as part of our Christmas Eve party. Oh, nothing very long, Mary added hastily, as though she knew what I was thinking. Just maybe a dozen seasonal melodies to generate the Christmas spirit, or Hanukkah spirit, or whatever other religious or ethnic celebration that occurs in December, or in winter. I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm not being culturally sensitive or ethnically sensitive, and here she stopped, looking both flustered and slightly frightened, like a kid who had accidentally blurted out a dirty word when he meant to say a more approved one. I almost felt sorry for Mary. I say almost, because this was also typical of her. She was woefully inadequate at her job as the recreation administrator at Green Pines Retirement Villa. Actually, I couldn't imagine any job that Mary would be good at. Not only was she disorganized and had no concept of how to plan anything, Mary always managed to offend someone by trying to be non-offensive to everyone. The simplest undertaking, like buying the right dessert for special events, seemed beyond her. When Cliff Walters turned 90, Mary bought a chocolate cake trimmed with pink roses with Happy Sweet 16 across the top. And last summer, she arrived with a sheet cake emblazoned with best wishes for your retirement for the annual 4th of July picnic. With Mary, the only thing you could count on was that whatever task should somehow get it completely wrong in her attempt to get it exactly right. So when I learned that she was in charge of this year's Christmas / Hanukkah / Kwanzaa / Boxing Day for our sole Canadian couple festivities, I knew that it would not go well. Not that anyone asked me. After all, I was just a volunteer, doing my bit twice a week as part of my Women in Business Group's community service obligation. I would rather have filled bags at the food pantry or answered the phone at the village park's office than be at Green Pines. It wasn't that I didn't like old people. It was more like they were an ever-present reminder of what I would be in the not-too-distant future. So will you do it? After all, you used to play at our church, not that playing our piano would be as nice as playing the organ, and you did it beautifully. But Mary stopped again, apparently recalling that the reason I no longer played at Archangel Gabriel's was that last summer when I broke my right wrist, they had asked the wife of the deacon to temporarily take my place. And somehow, by the time my distal radius fracture had healed, the temporarily had turned into permanently, and I was out of a job. A volunteer job, to be sure, and one that I wasn't all that crazy about since I had to get up at 6 a.m. every Sunday for the early morning service. But still, it was my job and a welcome break from dealing with my responsibilities as office manager at Bill's Book Bin. That title sounded much grander than it was, since my office was a 5-by-8 corner in the back room, and the only employee I had to manage were Bill's 2 teenage kids and Mr. Parker, an octogenarian who preferred to read rather than deal with customers. As for wanting to be part of the holiday event planning, or for that matter, anything involving the season, the truth was that this year I wasn't exactly filled with the Christmas spirit. Unlike in the past, my son Jack and his family wouldn't be coming home to spend the holiday with me. Instead, they'd be going on a cruise with my ex and his wife, Liz, who had moved to San Diego, ostensibly for the client, but I also suspected to be closer to Jack. So that is just a brief excerpt from Christmas Present in Mistletoe Magic. As you can imagine, there is a definite lack of holiday spirit to begin with. And then when you add to it the fact that she's got to come up with these plans for the retirement home, and the woman she's working with is not exactly the woman you want to be working with, for anything for that matter, you kind of wonder, how is this going to turn out? I mean, is she ever going to find any Christmas spirit at all? Is this going to be one of those, it can't get any worse, oh, apparently it can because it just did type of events? Well, you won't know unless you read the story. And you won't be able to read the story unless you get your copy of Mistletoe Magic and Other Holiday Tales. I hope you do. I hope you read the story. And if you do, I really hope you'll let me know what you think about it and possibly write a review as well. But I would love to know if you enjoyed the story. Thanks so much for being part of today's story time.